Hello everyone. So I welcome you to the lecture on research methodology unit 4. So the topic that we are going to discuss today is regression and correlation. Okay. So this is a very important topic as per the statistic point of view of your research, because definitely you are going to need these two while you are analyzing your data, right? So whatever the terms I'll discuss, go through it properly. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. You will answer me through a comment by mentioning your name and ID. And next thing is that after the class, what you'll do, you try to take some numerical examples with respect to this correlation and regressions. And if you are doing some practicals using either Python or R, then try to implement these things there with some data. Of course, the data with respect to your project works, with respect to your PhD works, you try to analyze these two on them. Okay, so let's begin the class then. I hope you can see my screen now. Okay, coming to the first one, correlation and regression. The relationship between X and Y. See, I discussed about dependent variables and independent variables many times throughout my lecture, right? So now you realize that how they are important. Now, basically this correlation and regression, they will answer these questions. Means what's the relationship between this X and Y? Now, correlation means that is there a relation between this X and Y? And regression means how well a certain independent variable predict the dependent variable. I'm repeating again. ठीक है, ये बहुत important है. Correlation मतलब क्या है? Is there a relationship between these two variables? Right? X and Y के बीच कुछ relationship है या नहीं, ये कौन आपको बताएंगे? That is correlation. And regression means how well that certain independent variable predict the dependent variable. Means there is a relation, but how strong is this? That is going to be given by regression. So in short, what I can say, how well one independent variable, you know that independent variable concept is what? Because we need this concept to understand that how they are correlated to each other, right? Correlated means what? The relation exists between them. Now the next thing is that how strong that relation is, that is going to be given by regression. Okay. So these two lines are clear to you. These two definitions are clear to you. Okay. Then correlation is not equal to causation. In order to infer causality, manipulate independent variable and observe effect on dependent variable. See, look at this diagram. This type of diagrams, I know that you already seen this, and I think in the last class also I have asked you questions about the different types of grams, means graphs, right? Like histogram, scatter plot, that pie plot. Okay, so scattergram is one of them to represent the data, to understand the data. So see, ठीक है, अच्छे से इसको देखो. Take a screenshot of this. Now, the first one is saying that this is a positive correlation. Definitely, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. Similarly, for this is xy, this is xy. Now, look at this first one. ठीक है, ये पहला जो है, इसको हम क्या बोल रहे हैं? Positive correlation, right? The second one is what thing you can see that this are like this. You know that I don't need to repeat that this is positive, right? This is negative, and this is zero, right? Now positive correlation. आप ये मुझे आप बताओगे, okay? So इसलिए मैं थोड़ा सा hint दे रहा हूँ. I'm giving you a hint, okay? But I'm going to ask one question now. Now see, positive correlation. This graphs looks like this. Then negative correlation, this. What does it mean? You know that this x values increases in this case like this, and y value increases like this case. If x value increases, what is happening y with respect to negative correlation? And if x value decreases, what is going to happen in, on y? That is positive correlation. Now, no correlation means data are scattered everywhere. You cannot find specific pattern here. First, positive correlation, you can find a specific pattern like this. Negative correlation, you can find a pattern like this. And no correlation means the data are plotted everywhere, scattered everywhere. You cannot find any relation between them. Got it? Okay. The first question of this lecture is that from this particular figure, what you have understood about positive correlation. ठीक है, ये एग्जाम्पल लेके आपको बताना है, this particular example, this particular graph. Okay, diagram. What is negative correlation with respect means how, what this particular pattern represents here. This is the first question to you. What is this pattern means to you with respect to positive correlation? What is this pattern means to you with respect to negative correlation? And you need to answer this for comment. Got it, everyone? Very good. Variance and versus covariance. If you are wishing to assume that your sample is representative of the general population, use the degree of freedom as n-1 in your calculations of variance or covariance. I hope you know about variance or covariance. If you don't have idea about that, then just let me know to comment. Again, I'll explain this facts. Although that is very important actually, although not a part of your syllabus, and you have to know that. So variance or covariance, आपको पता है तो बता देना. अगर if you don't know, then you just let me know. I'll explain. ठीक है. But main thing is that क्या हम बोल रहे हैं यहाँ? If you are wishing to assume that your sample is a representative of the general population, you know, you are randomly picking up a sample. Now, if this is representative of the whole population, general population, then the degree of freedom should be n-1. Remember this. This might be asked as MCQ in this type of examinations. Now, two things. How means this variance and covariance reflects these changes. See these equations. Okay, take a screenshot of this. Very simple one. And this one is. So variance gives information on variability of a single variable, while covariance gives information on the degree to which two variables vary together. Variance के केस में एक single variable हम consider कर रहे हैं. We are considering one variable, that how it varies. And covariance, in case of covariance, it gives information on the degree to which these two variables vary together. Note how similar the covariance is to variance. The equation simply multiply x error scores by y error scores as opposed to the squaring x. Very simple from these two equations. But आपको ये याद रखना है कि वेरिएंस क्या है, कोवेरिएंस क्या है. मैं फिर से बता दिया आपको, जो क्वेश्चन पूछा था. वेरिएंस मींस एक वेरिएबल के लिए उसका क्या कितना वेरिएशन आ रहा है. कोवेरिएंस मींस एक दूसरे के ऊपर क्या इफेक्ट डाल रहा है. मींस द डिग्री टू व्हिच द टू वेरिएबल्स वेरी टुगेदर, राइट. दैट इज द कोवेरिएंस. This is the equation. See, when x increases and y increases, then covariance of xy is positive. When x decreases but y increases, then covariance of xy will be what? Negative. If no constant relationship, then the value will be, means covariance of x and y will be 0. Is it clear to everyone? Okay. So this example, you just take a screenshot and try to understand. Very simple. Just you need to put the values in the equation, then you will find the value. So we are trying to calculate the covariance, and we have found, we are using this equation, xi minus x bar, y minus y bar. Okay, summation I goes from 1 to n divided by n minus 1. अभी थोड़ी देर पहले बताया था क्या है degree of freedom, right? तो 7 इसका वैल्यू 7 आ गया हमें ये मिल रहा है यहाँ से हम जस्ट सम ऑफ कर रहे हैं राइट एक्स वाई x1 माइनस एक्स बार ओके तो ये वैल्यू मिल गया आपका 7 n minus 1 that is 4 right the value is 1.75 now question ये है कि what does this number tells us ठीक है you tell me आपको पॉजिटिव वैल्यू मिल रहा है राइट 1.75 ये क्या बता रहा है आपको one more example you want to analyze you just go through it very simple as I have mentioned it I need to find out using this formula only Pearson's R covariance does not really tell us anything then why it is saying like that because there is no standardization with respect to covariance they are varying together and the value is giving it to us but it actually is it actually telling you something which is specific no so that's why we depend on Pearson's R this standardizes the covariance value divide the covariance by the multiplied standard deviations of x and y and that will give you this R ठीक है covariance of xy divided by sx xy so that will give you r xy ठीक है in simplifications covariance ये निकाल लिया आपने r xy क्या होगा sx xy डिवीजन आ गया आपका so overall you will get this one when r is equal to 1 or r is equal to minus 1 we can predict y from x with certainty all the data points on a straight line y is equal to x plus b right so if negative r then what will be the value if you are getting some negative value you let me know okay so thing is that this r is very sensitive to the extreme values तो हमने क्या देखा कि कोवेरियंस बहुत स्पेसिफिक आपको नहीं बता पा रहे थे तो कोवेरियंस को डिवाइड किया हमने किससे स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशंस ऑफ एक्स एंड वाई और वो हमें क्या दे रहा है पियर्सन्स आर्स ठीक है पियर्सन्स आर्स का वैल्यू आपने देखा पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव के बीच आ रहा है और मेरा क्वेश्चन आपके लिए ये है कि नेगेटिव मिलने से व्हाट इट एक्चुअली प्रेडिक्ट्स नाउ कमिंग टू द regression so correlation tells you if there is an association between x and y but it does not describe the relationship or allow you to predict one variable from the other means relationship तो आपको मिल गया है कि covariance से पता चल गया कि ये कोई relationship है but क्या हम उस relationship से y का वैल्यू डिटरमाइन कर सकते हैं x से या x का वैल्यू डिपेंडिंग ऑन which one is dependent and which one is independent so for that we need regression aim of linear regression is to fit a straight line y is equal to x plus b to data that gives best prediction of y for any value of x यहाँ आपको दिखाई दे रहा है y is equal to ax plus b मतलब x का वैल्यू आपके पास है तभी आप क्या कैलकुलेट कर रहे हो आप y तो कौन डिपेंड कर रहा है यहाँ पे means which one is depending on what which one y is depending on x right or wrong because if you don't get the value of x then you cannot calculate the value of y right this a is known as slope and b is known as intercept right I know that you know about what is slope slope क्या है intercept मतलब कहाँ क्रॉस कर रहा है ये you know this things right y is equal to x plus b ठीक है ये this equation is for linear regressions this will be the line that minimizes the distance between the data and fitted line that is the residuals ठीक है ये लाइन दिखाई दे रहा है and these are the points to find the baseline we must minimize the sum of the squares of the residuals the vertical distance from the data points to our line model line we have y is equal to x plus b a slope b is intercept you know that residual means y minus y so sum of squares of residuals you just square it and then sum it so these things should be minimized we need to find a and b for which this value or you can say for the which the value of this objective equation will be what minimized okay so first we find a value of b that gives the minimum sum of squares ठीक है, आप लोगों को ये पता होगा कि ऑब्जेक्टिव इक्वेशंस होता है, दिस आवर मेन एम इज टू ऑप्टिमाइज दैट ऑब्जेक्टिव इक्वेशन, एंड इन दिस केस वी ट्राई टू मिनिमाइज द वैल्यू फॉर दैट ऑप्टिमाइजेशन. ठीक है, ट्राइंग डिफरेंट values of b is equivalent to shifting the line up and down the scatter plot. देखो b का वैल्यू हम अलग अलग ले रहे हैं तो ये इंटरसेप्ट अलग हो रहा है. ठीक है, now we find a value of a that gives the minimum sum of square. Trying out different values of a is equivalent to changing the slope of the line while b stays constant. So we are actually doing what? We are trying to minimize this. So we need to minimize y minus x minus b square. Very clear from this equation. We are putting it here. So the minimum sum of square is at the bottom of the curve. ये आपको दिखाई दे रहा है. Where the gradient is, what will the gradient here? The gradient will be 0. ठीक है. Minimum sum of square is at the bottom of the curve where the gradient is 0. So we can find a and b that keeps minimum sum of square by taking partial derivatives of this equation with respect to a and b separately. I know that you are from different backgrounds. Maybe you will not have engineering mathematics or the basic mathematics. ठीक है, फिर भी आपको ये सारे चीज तो आना चाहिए कि डेविएशंस क्या है लाइंस के बारे में. ठीक है, but in our case at least you should know the differences between them, correlation, regressions, and then linear regression that we are discussing, right? And multiple linear regressions. ठीक है, okay. So our model equation is this one, y is equal to x plus b. This line must pass through the mean. So x का वैल्यू क्या होगा? y bar is equal to x bar plus b. So b is equal to y minus x bar. So we can put our equation for a into this giving. So ये हमें a हमने निकाल लिया तो a put कर दिया. So you will get this value. The smaller the correlation, the closer the intercept is to the mean of y. ठीक है. Basically, we are doing just simple mathematics here. So how good is our model? It actually depends on this variance. Variance of predicted y values and error variance. So this variance of predicted y values means this is the variance explained by our regression model, and error variance means this is the variance of the error between our predicted y values and the actual y values, and thus is the variance in y that is not explained by the regression model. ठीक है, तो टोटल वेरिएंस क्या होगा? प्रेडिक्टेड वेरिएंस प्लस एरर वेरिएंस. So via some complicated rearranging, you will get this equation. You don't need to memorize this, just go through it once and do the practical. That will be good for you. Okay. Then insert these things, simple algebraic calculation we are doing. Ultimately, we get that s square, s error square is equal to sy square into 1 minus r square. From this, we can see that the greater the correlation, the smaller the error variance is, so the better our prediction. I'm repeating again. This result is important. You need to remember this thing, that the greater the correlation, the smaller the error variance, and that's why our prediction will be improved for greater correlations. Okay? Good. So general linear model means linear regression is actually a form of the general linear model where the parameters are a, slope of the line, and b, the intercept. So y is equal to x plus b plus this. So a general linear model is just any model that describes the data in terms of a straight line. So multiple linear regressions is used to determine the effect of a number of independent variables on a single dependent variable. अगर आपने मैक्सिमम मतलब एक से अधिक ले लिया तो this is multiple independent variables on a single dependent variable, then we will have our regression to be called as multiple linear regression. The different x variables are combined in a linear way. Okay. So and each has its own regression coefficients. आपको दिखाई दे रहा है a1 x1, a2 x1, an x1 plus b, then plus epsilon. So this A parameters reflect the independent contribution of independent variable x to the value of the dependent variable y. ये जो दिखाई दे रहा है आपको a1, a2, y, an, because these are giving independent contribution of x1, x2, xn towards the calculation of y. ये तो आपका कांस्टेंट है, ये आपको मिल रहा है v plus epsilon, ठीक है? That is the amount of variance in y that is accounted for by each x variable after all the other x variables have been accounted for. Okay, so that is multiple regression. Now last question to you is multiple regression. आप समझ में आ गया ना? Okay, whenever we have more than, means whenever we have more than one independent variables, means there are number of independent variables, and then if we try to calculate the regression with their effect on our dependent variable, then that type of regression is known as multiple regression. So my question to you is that what is multiple correlation? Okay, this is the last question for today's lecture. What is multiple correlation? You will answer through comment by mentioning your name and ID. I'll go through it and thereby I'll take your. So I hope whatever the topics today I discussed is clear to you, and these topics are really very important, right? So do not skip a single topic of this, and questions answers basically they will help you to understand the topics better. And as I have mentioned that if you do the practical, then the practical means implementation of this regression and correlation with respect to the data set that you are working with, that will give you a better idea about them. So do that. So this will meet in the next lecture. Till then, take care. Bye.